Hey, this is Steven from LegitTechTutorials, and welcome back to How to Program series. Today we're going to be going over loops. What is a loop? A loop is where you perform a comparison to make your code have some sort of decision-making skills, right? So, for example, if you say that you want, let's say you're adding a GPA, right? You're adding your GPA together. You'd have, if what you entered is equal to an A, add 4 points to their GPA, that type of thing. So, like we went over at the beginning, you saw maybe a little bit, is that loops look like this. So up here you have the loop, and here you have what the loop initializes if it's true. And if you remember in the variables, we had a variable called a boolean, and a boolean is either true or false. Now the loop will only go into the code if it's equal to true. So, and if it's false, it will jump over what this is and not initialize what's inside the loop. So let's go over the first type of loop. So the first type of loop is called an if loop, and that only goes through once. Now, a if loop is going to have a comparison inside of it. So let's say that x is less than y. Go inside the loop and set x equal to y. So now if x is equal to, let's say, 2 and y is equal to 6, it will go inside the loop. It will go from here and just start initializing this. If x was equal to 8 and y was equal to 6, it would jump over the loop. And then, of course, you could change this to whatever comparison we've gone over that you want to use inside of this loop. It could be equal to, etc., etc. Now, if you're wondering, before we go over anything else here, how do you make it if, for example, if they're not equal to? So let's say we have, let me bring out my eraser here. Oops. Let me bring out my eraser. So let's say we had this equal. Now you're like, well, what if I want to jump into this loop if they're equal to each other, right? If they're not equals to each other. We have that one conditional called the bang, if you could remember. I think I touched into it a little bit. So that basically says that whatever's inside, negate it, right? So this time it will jump into the loop if it's false. Because if it's false in here, this guy will turn that into a true. So if it's false, if x is not equal to y, then it will go into the loop. And the bang is the exclamation mark, as you see there. So that is an if loop. It is a one-time use. It only goes in once, otherwise it jumps over. Then we have the for loop. The for loop is kind of the all inside a one loop. It's also called a counter loop. It's a type of counter loop. So a for loop has 3 parts, and they're separated by semicolons. As you see here, we have part 1, part 2, part 3. Now the first thing that you do is you want to initialize your counter. And usually the standards go that when people have a counter, it is usually an I variable. So it's I equals 0. And then in the second one, you have the comparison. So let's say, for example, if you want to do this loop 100 times, right? While it's less than, or I think it's, yeah, less than. And then you have your increment and decrement here. What do you want to do after each time it goes through the loop? So it's, what do you want to do? After this loop goes through one time, what do you want to do for it to go through the next time? We want to increment I. So now every time it goes through, it goes here, let's just say that we printed out I. for example. Print out I. And then jump through. So this will go through as many times until this condition is false. So it's going to go through 100 times because it's going to increment. So it goes through once. It will outprint 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and so on and so on, until it gets above 100. So this loop will go through 100 times, or whatever you set to be this number. You could also have different conditionals in here. You can make it whatever you want. Programming is not a stuck thing. You can customize it however you want, have anything inside of here to do any sort of comparison that you want. So let's say if two strings were equal to each other. We wanted this to keep going if two strings were equal to each other. Then we would want to go with the next loop, which we'll go over here in a second. So here is initializing your counter usually, and this is the comparison. So this is the if part of the loop. And this is so this basically gets dragged down to what you do at the end, or what you do at the very end here. So at the very end, I want to add 1 to I. This basically looks like I is equal to I plus 1. That's what this guy is. So it's just adding it's just adding 1 to the previous I, what's stored inside I. In this case, we have 0 stored in there. So that is a for loop. You'll see a lot of that in programming. And then finally, my favorite loop is called a while loop. And this is basically what they call a continuous conditional loop. So let's say that we wanted let's say we just had that. Now, basically what a while loop does is it's similar to a for loop, but it goes on forever until this condition's met. So it will keep, so you have to watch out for these, because these will sometimes sometimes crash your program because they will never stop. Because if this condition is never met, then it will keep going. I mean, if this is never false, it will keep going on forever. So for example, if we had something in here that didn't mess with X or Y and never made them not equal to each other, it will go on forever. But similar to the if, and I didn't say this for the for, but once of course it is false for the for and the while, it jumps out. Every loop does that. Once this is not true, once this conditional is not true, it will jump out of the loop. But, so for the if, it'll only go inside the loop if it's true once. The for will go in for that conditional. And the while will stay inside this loop forever until this is false. So it will keep going. It will go from here, it'll go from here down to here, and then it will go back here. And then go down. So it's basically looking like, the standard diagram that you see, where it's like this. It'll just keep going on, rotating circle forever. And it'll crash your program, and you'll have to close out of the program and find out what went wrong. So also what these usually do are called actually I think I'll go over that. I'll split it up into a second or maybe I'll just have it in here. There's a certain type of program called a centennial loop, where basically you have the user enter in an exit conditional for this guy. So you say while X does not, so let me rewrite that again. Let's rewrite this. So we're going to say while X does not equal quit. And that's a string, by the way. These guys signify string. Whatever's in between these two things here are a string. So as it's going through, you're going to have, you know, the user input something, right? You're going to have them input. So you're going to say, like, take input for X. So now, if this guy is equal to quit, so let's say they keep going through this loop until they want to quit, right? So you have that same diagram again. I did it the wrong way. It goes like this. So it will keep going through this loop guy here, keep bouncing through until this guy is until the user enters in quit. So if this guy does not equal quit, it will keep going in. And then once the user enters in quit, it will jump out of the loop. That's mainly what people use the while for, is called a centennial loop, where somebody enters in a value and the user bumps it out of the loop. So it will continuously go through. For example, let's say we go back to that GPA. So it says, you know, enter in your GPA, you enter in an A, and then the loop says, do you have another grade to enter? And you say yes. It will jump back to the top of this loop here. It will jump back to the top of the loop and let you continue. And then it goes down the bottom and says, do you have another grade to enter? Yes. It will go back to the top of the loop, enter in the grade, and then say it again. So those are the three main types of loops and some things that you would want to do with them. You could also embed a loop inside of a loop, so I could have another if loop in here if I wanted to, and I can have another for loop in here if I wanted to. So you have infinite customability in here. So you can have a for loop embedded inside another loop, as you see here. So you can basically manipulate your program to get any kind of output that you want, and that is the point of programming. Alright, so this has been Steven from LegitTechTutorials, and I'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please subscribe for more videos like it. Have any questions, email me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Later.